Welcome to the Horse Hour podcast. Today we are at the National Equine Forum all day, and there's guest speakers talking about how we can improve the equestrian industry by working together. And one of those speakers is the lovely Sarah Phillips. She's the Chief Operating Officer at the British Horse Society. How are you, Sarah?
Very good, thank you.
Now, you are really helping us when it comes to business. You guys have this great campaign at the moment on business rates, and you're going to explain all about it. What made you originally look at the issue of business rates?
We, for a number of years, have been well aware that riding schools and livery yards have felt that they've not been fairly treated when it comes to business rates. We obviously have a number of PHS-approved centres who we campaign on their behalf, and we're their voice really when it comes to sort of talking to government and some of the issues that affect them. So over the years we had been sort of quietly working away in the background regarding business rates, and then in 2015 the government started to look at how business rates were applied, and they were going to have a reform of business rates. And at that point we, on behalf of our members, put in some consultation responses, and that's really where it all started. So we've always had our eye on the ball, as it were, with business rates. But then obviously in October last year, the new rateable values were published, and then that's what caused sort of the big hiatus that we've got at the moment.
Oh gosh, can you explain to us what is happening?
Basically, every business in the country is liable to pay business rates. And the way that the government work out how much you should pay is based on what the rental value of that business premises would be. So the higher your rateable value, as it's called, of your business, then the more business rates that you will pay. So the rental values haven't been looked at since 2010, and they were then done again last year, ready for the 2017 new business rate year coming in on the 1st of April. So what happened was riding schools in particular, their rateable value, which is based on their so-say rent, has gone up hugely disproportionately to other businesses across the sector. And we've got riding schools where their business rates are, could rise by up to 300%.
My gosh, that's insane. How can they even possibly think that that's okay?
Well, exactly, and that's what we're saying. You know, we understand that everybody has to pay tax and everybody has to pay rates. That's not the issue. But we are expecting riding schools and livery yards to be treated the same as other businesses, where across the country, we're being told that some people's rates won't increase at all and other people's rates will actually be dropping. But we've got this one area of the business that we're representing where they are increasing massively. We've obviously done a lot of case studies and a lot of work looking at the data. And for an example, we have a lovely small riding school in Berkshire. It's family run. They employ one person part-time. The rest of the staff are the owners and family members. And their rateable value in 2010 was £5,700. That's now gone up to £18,500, which is an increase of 225%.
Oh my gosh! Well, surely they won't be able to survive, because
exactly.
They won't be able to make any money. I mean, let's be honest, that the riding industry, we love it, but it's a hard slog to make any money, because you've got to pay for the horses, you've got to pay for the land, you've got to pay staff. It's not exactly a huge money maker, is it?
No, it isn't, and we're very close to a lot of our riding schools, and they confide in us how their business is going, and there are very few that are profitable or profitable without another income source coming into that business. So we've had people on the phone saying, this is probably going to be my last year trading. I genuinely can't afford that extra £500, £1,000 a month. I don't know how I'm going to keep going. And riding lessons, whether you're an adult or a child, they're hugely beneficial to people. But there's only a finite amount of money that someone has to spend on their own recreation. So, this particular lady, she can't put her riding lessons up by 225% because she'd have absolutely no customers.
Yeah.
So it's completely disproportionate to the, to the money-making element of that business. It doesn't reflect their profitability at all.
But also, isn't it interesting how the government have one scheme where they're trying to get more people into riding, and so they want to build participation when they're getting more people into horses. But then the other side, it's almost like the two sides aren't talking together, and the other side, they're making it really tough for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we, as part of my role in the BHS, we look at participation. We run a number of projects where we get funding from Sport England, which is obviously government money, and that's looking at getting people more engaged with their horse, getting them more active, getting them riding more frequently, getting them better supported on their route to horse ownership. So that project for us has been hugely successful. We also have had in the past funding that riding schools could apply for to improve their facilities. And one of the things that Sport England said about riding schools that sometimes their waiting area or their toilets or their clubhouse, for want of a better word, is pretty mediocre, and they can be pretty cold and dingy in the winter. So we've had riding schools that have applied for funding. Luckily enough, they've got that funding. They've built some new facilities. They've improved, the safe access to their toilets or waiting area for parents of a weekend, and now they're getting rated really heavily on those improvements. So the government's given them money with one hand, yet they're now taking it away with the other. And the whole getting the country active, getting everybody, to be an active nation, well, actually, you're about to remove a large proportion of riding schools that help those people become active. And it might not just be because they ride there, they might be volunteers, they might be helping with some RPA sessions, they might be leaders, they might, we've got lots of centres where dads come along and says, oh, I can fix the fence for you, I can help you, rehang the stable doors. So we've got people who volunteer in riding schools, and it keeps them active, it gives them an interest, it keeps them busy, and all that will just disappear.
So the business rates that are increasing, it's not just for the equestrian industry, is it? It's across the board.
It is. There's been a huge amount in the press over the last couple of weeks. And, we've got lots of other industries, not just rural businesses. So we've got veterinary surgeries, we've got dog kennels, we've got racing. They've all been hit really hard, yet we're then being told about in the news, Amazon, they're going to be their rates are falling, nuclear plants, power generators, oil refineries, all their rates are dropping, and you're thinking, okay, when was the last time anybody ever rented a nuclear establishment? So you could argue that the whole business of looking at the rental value of a property to determine their business rates is completely flawed, because how you work out what the rental value of a steelworks is, I don't know. But they're all dropping. Amazon distribution centres, they are looking at a reduction of about £11 million. Well, that is massive for a company that, while they have a place in society, they have been questioned before about what they pay in taxes, etc. And your small riding school that's now going to be faced with an additional £500 a month bill is just not able to afford to pay it. And it just seems to be completely unfair that those that possibly could afford it are seeing a reduction, and those that are providing, an excellent resource for the local community are actually being penalised really heavily.
Well, I did some research on this, and I did hear that and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if you're an academy, you get 80% relief on business rates if you're a registered academy. But the interesting thing was, I know a company that tried to apply for this because they've just launched a new academy, and the council said it's at the council's discretion. So even though the government are offering this 80% relief, it's then the individual council that get to agree. And they said, "Oh no, we don't think that you can. We don't think you deserve the 80% relief."
I mean, the 80% relief that I know of is for a CASC, which is a community amateur sports club. So a lot of sports clubs, say, I don't know, football, athletics, will register themselves as a cask to get that 80% relief, which is great. Business rates are devolved to some extent to the local authority. They're responsible for collecting them, and they're also they now have the ability to spend the money that they generate through business rates goes into the council or the local authority finances. So obviously they don't want to be giving huge amounts of rate relief because obviously it affects their income. The 80% rate relief for a sports club is an interesting one, because in the last budget, so the 2016 budget, the Chancellor increased the threshold for small business rates relief up to £12,000. So basically, if you had a rateable value below £12,000, you don't have to pay any business rates. So we thought, well, that's great. You know, a lot of our riding schools and livery yards are small businesses. They'll fall below that £12,000. They will get 100% rate relief. Fantastic. When the new rateable values come out, all those small businesses with a small rateable value have been pushed way over the £12,000. So again, the government's given a bit of an olive branch, but actually increased everybody's rateable value so that they're not below the threshold, so they get no small business rate relief. And likewise with a club that has 80% reduction, they're not eligible for the small business rate relief. So they're actually losing out by not being able to claim that £12,000 rate relief, but because they get 80% rate relief. So there's quite a few anomalies in the whole structure.
So talking at the National Equine Forum, what can we do? How will that help us? You know, we're not going to be able to change the business rates, are we?
Well, that's what we want to do. We have been obviously campaigning, as you will have seen in the local press, or in all press, over the last couple of weeks. Every industry is out there campaigning. So, you know, the shops on the high street, pubs, all of these people that are going to be seeing a massive rise. The more people we can have campaigning, the stronger our voice. So very much by talking at the National Equine Forum, it's about making people aware of what is happening, getting them to talk to their own MPs, following what's happening in the press, raising, you know, new case studies, new concerns that they have. It might be their local riding school, it might be their own riding school, but it's very much about raising awareness. And yes, we're coming up to the budget now. It might be a bit naive of us to expect that the Chancellor's going to say, right, we're going to do this, that, and the other, and it will all be good. But the Chancellor is aware of what's happening. We've got a rates awareness meeting on the 1st of March, which is the day before the National Equine Forum. We are inviting all MPs in England and Wales to attend that meeting, to meet with some of our proprietors, to meet with members of the APPG, which is the All-Party Parliamentary Group for the Horse, which has a cross-body membership. And we're hoping there that, you know, MPs will hear what we're saying. They will realise that there's something fundamentally wrong with the rating system if it's about to have such a detrimental effect on one area of business, which in our case is equestrian. And if there is a vote, if there is something to be said in the House, they will be well informed and they will hopefully influence and get something changed in the budget, which would be our ideal.
Sarah, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, I love it. Fight for the cause, hey? I want to make T-shirts now saying "Go Sarah."
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely, because we're doing this on behalf of our members who pay us to be an approved centre, but actually we're working for all riding schools and all livery yards, because if this area of business is lost, if these riding schools close, they'll never open up again, and a whole generation of horse riders will be lost, and generations to follow. You know, they won't have the opportunity to learn to ride and to enjoy horses like, you know, we've all been fortunate enough to do.
And well, I thank you very much for fighting on our behalf, because, you know, quite often I think little riding schools feel forgotten and they feel lost, and they're in their little village in the middle of nowhere, and they don't, even though there's so much support for them, they don't actually know that it's there. And when it's your business and you're thinking, I don't have a choice, I've got to pay these rates, I'm going to lose my business, they're losing their livelihood, there's more people out of unemployed. And also, we are working so hard to keep the industry going. We're working so hard to get new people riding. And I feel that as an industry, we've got a really good momentum going. You know, we had the Olympics and even before that, people in the industry are working so hard to show how beneficial in so many ways horse riding is. And you just feel like, oh, you've done all this work and then it's just being taken away.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we, as the BHS, we've just launched a new programme called Changing Rides Through Horses, which looks at taking disengaged young people, giving them an opportunity in a riding school environment where they can, you know, hopefully blossom, reconnect with society, reconnect with school, and go back into either employment or into education. And we know that, you know, there are a lot of young people who once they get disengaged, once they get termed as NEET, which is not an employment, education or training, they very quickly become lost to society. They are deemed as a financial burden because very many of them will go on to benefits. So we have launched this programme.
Which Lynn Peterson is joining us in a bit to tell us all about it.
Yeah. So Lynn will be telling us all about it. But if we lose those riding schools, where will those young people go? And, you know, we've had some fantastic success stories, even in the small pilot programme that we've been running so far. So it's not just about, you know, children and adults riding, and very often the perception is, oh, if you ride a horse, you've got to be rich. That's not the case at all. You know, and a lot of people who own a horse, they will not have expensive holidays or a smart car because they enjoy riding and they invest their time in their recreation and their hobby, and all of those things will be lost and they won't come back because it's very rare that someone wakes up in the morning and says, right, I'm going to open a new business, it's going to be a riding school. That just doesn't happen. So once they're gone, there'll be no coming back.
In my local area, 3 riding schools have shut down in the last 2 years. And it's heartbreaking. And either that land, in one case, the land became development land. In another case, they just couldn't afford to keep going. And there's only really 3 left. And that's so heartbreaking because like I said, you know, it benefits the children so much. And in many aspects, adults are going into riding now too, who have maybe never ridden before because they want to get fit and they want to do something different. They maybe don't like the gym. And oh, well, I wish you the very best of luck and thank you for organising all of this on our behalf. Please do let us know how you get on.
Yeah, we will do.
So how can we follow you on Twitter?
At British Horse, and there'll be updates on our rates campaign, plus lots of other exciting things that the British Horse Society are doing.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, Sarah.
That's okay. That's brilliant. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks so much for listening. I'm at the National Equine Forum all day today and I'll be bringing you interviews with guest speakers, with some of the experts. We'll be live tweeting the conversations that are taking place and photos too, so you can get involved in what's happening at the NEF. Tweet us your questions. What do you think about some of the subjects that are being talked about? Just use #HorseHour, #NEF17. The experts here are talking in detail about how we can make changes to the industry. How can we improve our equestrian industry? And you're part of that as well. So do tweet us your opinions and your questions. I will speak to you very soon.